Hi everybody, welcome back. Can you all come on in now and start to take your seats? And if there's anyone out in the lobby, come on in. I hope you've all had your coffee. Okay, everybody, so we're just going to start. So I'd like to welcome you all back, and I'm just going to introduce the next round of the program. So we're going to start shortly with a panel, looking forward, the Foundations for a Green Future, which is moderated by Laurent Stander, who's here in the audience. So Laurent will be up shortly. And then right after the panel, we're going to be continuing with elections of the AMC and committee members. And it's crucial that all delegates are present during the elections. So if you just keep that in mind and keep an eye on the timings, keep an eye on the WhatsApp group. If you need to duck out for any small reason, just please be back for that, because that's crucial. And we'd also ask you to have your smart devices, so your phone or your tablet or whatever you're using, have it fully charged, just because there will be online voting. So we just ask you to keep that in mind and have it connected to the internet as well, please. And technical support will be available in the room at all stages of the elections. So just seek out support or put your hand up when, if you do have any issues at the time, or if you know you have any issues coming up, so just give us a shout. After the elections, there'll be a moment for the committee photo and the group photo of the Green family. So stay in the room at that point if you wouldn't mind, and we'll give you directions on where to go at that stage as well. So I'm going to be, in a few minutes, I'm going to be inviting Benedetta Del Marte to the stage, but before that, we're just going to have a short little video for everybody. Thank you. So when some of us have had a tough week like we had here in Ireland, we know we've part of the Irish Green family, but at times like that, it's really, really nice to know that we're also part of the big European Green family. So I think really nice to get reminders like that every now and again. So I'm going to invite Benedetta to the stage. Benedetta Del Marte, everybody. Thank you.
Yes. Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here. I know it's a bit weird because I am at the same time on this picture and at the same time moderating this moment. But my committee told me I should do it, so I said I will not deny this to my committee. And it's really my pleasure to indeed be here to have a moment to acknowledge all the work that this committee, outgoing committee, has been doing during these years. They have been very tough years. When we picked up the committee last time, the war in Ukraine had just started. We were coming out of a very hard phase also in terms of social connections and member parties' connections after the pandemic. And at the same time, we found ourselves with a campaign to organize in very short time with a very new committee and so on. So I really think that we should acknowledge all the energy that everyone in this body has put to make sure that we would arrive to have a successful campaign, but also all the other achievements that we have already mentioned these days. So I really want to take a moment to thank them and to make sure that, unfortunately, we have Gosha, who couldn't arrive yet. She's been trying to arrive since 2 days, and she's blocked in Paris. She will arrive tonight, so when you will meet her, please give her a hug, because she will have missed this moment that voila, dear Gosha. Yes, an applause for Gosha. And I think that from also the candidacies that we have seen yesterday, all my dear colleagues from the committee that are not running anymore know that whomever will take this organization in their hands in the future will be absolutely amazing at doing this. So I am very pleased of the fact that we have so many great candidates. I also want to acknowledge this, because yesterday I was like, wow, that's amazing that we have this diversity, these people that are really so motivated to join the EGP, and I think it testifies also of the work that the previous committee has been doing in order to try to bring more interest towards the European Green family. So that's something that also it's acknowledged to all of you. So I'm gonna first call on stage for a few seconds my colleagues Rasmus, Vula, and Sibylle, who are outgoing committee members that are running again, because I think we should give them the gift anyway, even though they are still running. So in a very quick way, I would like you to be on stage and my colleagues to bring well, I don't have the gift in my hands, but someone else will bring them to you. Yes, it's a bit artisanal, as we like it to do. Voila. So these are wonderful cutting boards with the EGP logo that I will show to you now. They're very fancy, and to you, Vula, as well. And then also the committee pictures that also, of course, reminds you of
Thank you.
wow. Ah, yes, voila. So thank you. And then with you, maybe I'll see you later. So thank you very much, all of you. And then I would like to start with my dear colleague Mina Jack, the other southerner in the room of this committee, well, also with Vula, a person that with so much sarcasm and sense of humor and has animated our meetings with these incredible drawings that made us understand the politics, even the most intricate politics of Europe, like Southern Europe. I remember sometimes trying to explain the Spanish paradigm of parties in drawings, and Mina Jack managed correctly, and also ensure that we always have an inclusive point of view in our politics, and really, a big applause for Mina Jack. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Benny. Thank you, everyone. It's quite emotional to be here as an outgoing committee member. It's been a tough 2.5 years. I've had some really nice moments and really memorable moments, especially when I visited member parties in different places. Like one of my favorite moments was when I visited DOM in Skopje and joined them for Pride in Skopje, and had a long 2-hour conversation about trans issues with like 20 of their members. And it was so wonderful, just the openness and the welcome I felt, that I could go to any Green family and feel at home. the same when I went to Turkey and observed the elections over there. It was really exciting, and to be on the ground, to go to different cities in Turkey to follow the elections from close, and even more so when I went to Ankara and we were invited to um, to a court to follow um, a session in court, and where they said, you know, the international solidarity from the EGP was so important, because even just having an international observer from a political party in the room meant that the lawyers' microphones weren't being switched off. And so it felt like such a small gesture to sit in a courthouse for an hour, but it meant so much. And so it was really these moments that I think I will carry with me for a long time, these special moments with different member parties, speaking, like invited by Luana to speak in the Italian parliament on trans issues as well. Very nervous to do a 10-minute speech in Italian, but I was very welcomed, and that was really wonderful. So yeah, I just, it's these moments that I will carry with me, and I thank you all for welcoming me in different places across Europe to be with you and to share the Green Vision. Thank you.
Bravo. I regali. Voilà. The gift for you is different. Yes, I don't know what you are supposed to cut with this cutting board, or if you are supposed to throw it on the hand of somebody that you don't like, but normally the Greens, we don't do this, but it's pretty heavy, so that's
Thank you.
Ciao, MJ, and then... And then I have the pleasure to call on stage another person that I will miss very much, because it's one of the people that I've been working the most, of course, during these years, and because our positions also mean that we have to talk about things that nobody else wants to talk about, which is money, finances, organization, compliance, and so on and so forth. And this person is Ute Michel, that I really, thank from the bottom of my heart. And a microphone is coming also for you. Come. Right. Well, the fact that we have to take a microphone means that we also don't hug when you're right.
Yeah. I'm not quite the longest involved. I'm beaten by Thomas by 4 years, but in terms of involvement in EGP from the current committee. So my first council was in Montreuil in France in autumn 2008. I started off as a delegate for GPW, then went on to FAB, and then for 2 terms on the committee. And you may have experience of this yourselves, people who like crunching numbers and talk about money and finance are sometimes a bit odd, or have sort of very firm views on what money should or should not be spent. And I have to say that in both committees, in different compositions that I've worked on, and with all of you over the years, I've really felt at home and in a place where I could make a contribution, and I'm very grateful for this experience. Thinking back about the 2 committees, yesterday it dawned on me, we were sitting in committee meeting, it was the world outside, doom and gloom, discussions about resolutions, amendments, whatever, doom and gloom, lots of problems. And then somebody made a funny remark and the whole committee started laughing. And therefore, I'd like to give a special shout out to the previous committee I served on, which had none of this. As Benedetta has already said, it was a very difficult time. So it wasn't that we didn't enjoy a good laugh, but we had 2 physical meetings in 2.5 years. We had one after we got elected, then COVID hit, And then we had one physical meeting at the end of the term, before the new committee was elected. And Jean is here, others are not, but it was a really hard time. We all managed, I mean, you all know this, we all managed on Zoom. It seemed to be a forever Zoom meeting, but it was really difficult circumstances. Also, we didn't know what to do with the money, how we could even spend anything, because we couldn't do physical meetings and all of that. So we managed to get through all this, and that was a really big collective effort. Notwithstanding, of course, the current committee is also the best committee ever, so I have to add that. Yeah, it's really been a great honor for me to be part of this EGP family. And I would also say that in both committees, what united us and what was really special was that we all have egos, but everybody made their contribution in the knowledge that we were all working for something that is more and bigger than us individually and us collectively, 9 of us together. And that is something that I'm really, really proud of. And I just hope that there is continuity in this, and that however big our egos are, it doesn't get into the way of knowing that this green movement and our vision for the survival of humans on this planet is bigger than anything else individually.
Thank you.
And one last sentence, I'm not going to go away completely. I'm going to move to New Zealand, so I'll be far away. But I've just been elected treasurer of the Global Greens, so there's even more work ahead to sort their finances out and make sure they have money to do things. But that means I'll still be involved, I'll still be around, and I hope our paths cross at some point in the future. Thank you.
And the gifts. Thanks.
Thank you.
I've been lenient with you with the time because it was not a presentation of your candidacy. So. And now, of course, I would like to call on stage both my amazing co-chairs, Thomas and Melanie. And I have to say that working with them has been a very, very, very big pleasure from the beginning. We are very different people, all the three of us, I can say, coming from very different backgrounds. But I mean, they both have done like an amazing job. Thomas has been, of course, co-chair of the EGP for 2 mandates, but also before he was already a committee member, and he's been involved, as Ute said, in this family, I think, since its founding in 2004 in Rome. And I have to say, he's been the engine of a large part of our enlargement of our family, and I think that this has been something that, with his conviction and stamina, he has pushed through also on a lot of people that were not convinced of this in the past, and that have taken up this, let's say, energy and conviction from him in the last years. And I think that this is a big heritage that he leaves to the EGP, and I would like to acknowledge him for this and give him a big round of applause, because that's what we're here for. And then Melanie, of course, who has been for me in these years a great inspiration with her feminist and pro-European federalist fights. We knew each other already before coming to be in a close relationship in the committee, but I didn't know her from a personal point of view that much. And I think that this has been also a very insightful part of the work that we have done together, because, as I said, we also are very different, but for me, she's a bit of a political sister that I look at, although we are very, very different personalities, but we have been working...
insisting a lot on the fact that we are different.
Because it's true, it's complementary, you know? And with a lot of, I think, energy and love in this committee, and as Ute said, without steering things in directions that were too different from each other, I think we have achieved a lot, and this is definitely due to the leadership of the co-chairs, and I want to thank them very much. And also for you, there is the mics, of course, so that you can go ahead with your speeches. Thank you.
Thank you, Benny. And first of all, well, I'm with you since 2004. I was in Rome as a regional delegate of my region, Steierska or Steiermark, how we say in Austrian. It has been 20 years now with you. It has been 7 years in the committee. It has been 5 years as a co-chair of the European Green Party. First mandate with Evelyn Hüttebrück. She's somewhere around. So another thank you, Evelyn, and also to this COVID committee that we were, some kind of ghost committee, because, yeah, as it was said, was very difficult times. It was a great honor. It was a great pleasure. I would ask you, and also the future committee, but all of you, cherish the diversity that we have within Greens. Not just respect it, cherish it, and still keep the unity at the same time. And this may sound contradictory, but it's not. It is not, because the amount of content, the amount of policies, the amount of values that unite us all is so much bigger than everything we have in difference, that everything that differentiates each other, that the differences that we have from political cultures, political history, what we have in common is so much bigger. And I would really like to ask you and the committee that you will elect, take care for our new member parties, take care for the diversity also that we have in our family. And, you know, we've got a huge responsibility. And this is also what it was serving as a co-chair. It was a lot of work. It was a lot of responsibility. It was a lot of joy. And it was a lot of fun. And this is also something, yeah. And yes, we share responsibility and work, but don't forget to also share fun and joy with each other, because that's what makes us a strong and an effective family. So thank you so much for giving me all the trust over the years. Thank you so much for allowing me to serve in this position. And thank you so much for all the cooperation, for all the love and all the laughter we had together. Thanks a lot.
I mean, I said most of what I wanted to say yesterday, so I'm really going to be short. But it doesn't really feel it's over yet, because we are still fully negotiating the resolutions. And that's really where I feel I belong, you know, like negotiating compromises with the view of finding the best for the EGP as a family, going beyond, as Ute said, and I really think that's something that has defined us as a committee, going beyond our individual national party interests, but really finding the common interest of the EGP as a family. So I don't want to say anything more than what I said yesterday. Just the best gift you could give me is that tomorrow we have a smooth, happy
Voting session
on the resolution, and that we can show that even if we disagree on so many things, we are the only European political family able to put this on the table, to talk to each other, to make compromises, to work with each other, to move towards each other, and at the end to serve the best interests of the Green family. So That's all I want. Thank you, congratulations, thank you very much.
And then I would like to call the whole family, the whole committee for a picture together because.
And I didn't feel I was so different from Benny for all these years, but it's okay.
Now they will think, you know, some complotist theory that.
In which way exactly?
Because you're cynical and I'm always naive. No, but it's true. Because, like, Melanie has always this way of bringing me down to earth that it's amazing.
I give the microphone.
The photographer is there.
Oh yes, and join us for the farewell drinks tonight and farewell dance. Yeah.
I know, we have. I don't understand the sign of the photographer.
Are we ready?
Okay. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Ah, yes. Thomas. Thomas. You can use it for your cheese.
Are we sure that Benny knows that I'm a forester?
Nobody.
Thank you, everybody. And just as I was coming on stage, I just heard someone asking, who's thanking Benedetta? And she said, nobody. So I think we should all thank Benedetta. I think another round of applause for Benedetta and one for all this incredible, inspiring group of people we just saw on the stage. So, unfortunately, we're running a little bit late, but it's my pleasure to announce Laurent Stonder to the stage. So Laurent is going to introduce the next panel. It's a conversation with leading green politicians, thinkers and activists, and never before has a conversation like that been so important. So this is going to be a really, really interesting session. Just a particular note though, obviously everybody's naturally welcome to attend this session, but we would ask you that, and please stay in the room, but we would ask that under Chatham House rules, everything that's said in the room stays in the room, and that this is an internal moment, so we'd ask that there is no content generated from this session for communications. So I'll just hand you over to Laurent, who's just taken to the stage now. Thank you, everybody.
Can I take yours? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, das war super.
All right. Yeah, I will welcome directly the speakers so I can introduce you. So please, Sandra, Angelo, Tariq, and Laurence, I will welcome you on stage. Apologies to everyone for the slight delay, and we got ourselves a nice family picture. But stay tuned. We will start our plenary.
Where do you want us to?
Wherever you feel like, please, Laurence. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this plenary on the Foundations for a Green Future. My name is Laurent Standard. I'm the director of the Green European Foundation. Very pleased to be here and accompanied by great minds and speakers. I'll introduce them very briefly because you can find their very extensive biography on the program. We have much more to hear from them than repeating their biography. To my right, I have Laurence Toubiana, who's the CEO of the European Climate Foundation and also professor at Sciences Po and École Normale Supérieure in Paris. Next to Laurence is Tariq. Hi, Tariq. Professor of European Politics at the University of Oxford and professor fellow, is it, at Nuffield College, if I'm correct. There for Sandra Bencic is one of the coordinators of Možemo, the platform, Green Left platform in Croatia, and also, if I'm not mistaken, the head of the parliamentary group of Možemo in the parliament. And last but not least, Angelo, very welcome, Angelo. You are a member of the Italian parliament, and you're also a spokesperson for Europa Verde, if I'm not mistaken. Welcome to all of you. I want to thank DGP for organizing this plenary with a little bit of delay. So we'll take our time, and we will probably finish in 1 hour 15 minutes, so that you are aware. I want to state very clearly the objectives of what we want to do. This is a plenary. And in the plenary, and especially with the 4 great speakers, panelists I have here, I do intend, as I was asked to bring you inspiration, to take you a bit out of your comfort zone and take us out of our comfort zone in the Greens. And as you saw in the title, we are looking at the future. We are looking at the foundations of the future, so we are also looking for the lessons, the practices that we so direly needs. There are things that we do great. There are also things that need to change. We will do so in 3 blocks. And now, in these blocks, I will ask my speakers to really stick to 5 minutes each. Each block will be consisting of lessons, proposals, and I hope new ideas for us, for all of us here in the European Greens. Before I do so, and it's the difficult part of a moderator is to try to keep it short, but still give a bit of context here. This is the first Congress after the European elections, so it's a tough one for a family that certainly has had some success and a bigger geographical expansion with gains in the east and in the south, but it's been a difficult post-European elections. We have a new group. You have heard them earlier, and the MEPs and our co-president. We have more far-right representatives in different member states, but also in the European Parliament. So here, what we want to discuss is what is our offer. I want the speakers whom I have briefed not to be too defensive towards the far right. We do that a lot, and legitimately so, but what is our offer? What is the green offer? What is on our menu for the voters? It's also a very difficult context because we come 5 years after 2019. This was really a key moment for all of us, for the Green Agenda, for the Green Movement, and we are just 5 years after, and it feels like there may be a backlash, the green backlash. It feels like the far right has won, and so on. So we will also analyze that. One of the co-authors of Laurence Toubiana in an edited volume, Ivan Krastev, whom you may know, used to say that there are 2 sort of apocalyptic views that Europeans have. One is demographic, and the other one is the climate apocalyptic view. And it feels like from 2019 to 2024, one has taken over the other, at least in the electorate and how they have voted. And so that's something that we want to explore here. There have been massive, tectonic changes. I mean, a war, geopolitical changes like we have rarely seen in the last 20 years. And we have just seen that in the very recent weeks with the election of Donald Trump, which marks almost the beginning of this European era. The Commission is voted just after, but so it feels like December is not really a Christmas moment for us from the Green side, because it's not great gift. But at the same time, there's a lot to fight for. So, as I will just take the words of Thomas to conclude my introduction. Yes, we are diverse. Yes, there is diversity in this family, but we are also united. There's a unity behind the philosophical foundations of the Greens. And so what we are going to do here is analyze what happened, and you will give us great ideas. So, in the first block, before talking about the future, we need to get the analysis right. We need to have a good mirror in front of our eyes. So I will start by that. And I will ask you, Laurence Toubiana, as the first speaker. So can you give us, in 1 minute, tops, your honest, critical look at where are the Greens? Where is the Green movement? Floor is yours.
First, thank you for the invitation. Very exciting. I think the Green had an exceptional and massive success, but I think you are too fatalist now. Yeah, of course, external and internal difficulties, when I look at my country, for example, are kicking in, but then you have to stand up for what you have achieved. And Green Deal is a big achievement of the Green. So I would say, look, don't look too much inside. Huh? Open eyes, open doors. Look and defend what you have really been able to produce, which is this new Green Deal, which is a fantastic achievement. I will stop there.
Thank you, Laurence. And for your intervention, we'll go deeper. But mark those words, please, and mark this message from someone who's been at the forefront of this fight for very long. You wrote in 2019 that the European Green Deal could offer a promise of a social pact, a social contract, as the French would have it. Others take it from another angle. Very recently, the former Secretary General of NATO, Mr. Rasmussen, even said, you know, the European Green Deal is a great opportunity, even from a security concern, and we should not ditch it. What happened? What happened in the last 5 years? Since 2019, what is your assessment of what happened to that Green Deal as a promise, as a potential contract?
I think a major pillar has been achieved, and we know that the list of legislative achievement, the 55 package, the natural restoration law, and many, many more concrete achievements. So, and then we see that even now, in a very difficult context, the mindset of European people have changed. There is an increased climate awareness. Consensus to mitigate and adapt to climate change is there on the population, and often with bipartisan support or whatever across political spectrum. I think the big proof of it, as the Rasmussen said, when the Russian aggression came, the first reaction, and it was just like for COVID as well, don't forget COVID. The Green Recovery the Green Deal was an outcome of COVID. It could have been totally different if we didn't have that package prepared, that energy involved. And the first security response was Repower EU, which was we go even further than the basic element what was there in the initial Green Deal. So, okay, yes, there is polarization, there is fragmentation, but still, I think where we are, in my view, deserving ourselves, in general, in the climate movement, the ecological movement, which I'm part of, is to take the backlash as, we are losing. Not. We are not losing. There is a silent majority. We may not be the NGOs and the Green Party not the best emitter of the message because we are criticized and because there is polarization and attacks, and there are attacks on these particular messengers. But there is a silent majority in all surveys, polls, focus group. 70% of Europeans think that climate change is very important, environment is very important, and we should double down on the politics and the policies. So, yes, there is backlash, it's instrumentalization, it's politics, bad politics, but we should not internalize that. So we should defend the victories we have won, but recognize what we have been short is to connect these victories to the concern of people. We have been short, in general, to put the social issues at the front and not as an afterthought. Oh yes, there will be, these policies are regressive, so we should do something about that. No, that has created the capacity for the far right and some conservatives to attack as it is really elites against the people. That's our weakness. The weakness is that we haven't been able to confront that issue and to start from the concerns of people and bring them together with all these ecological victories and objectives. we have to reverse the way we work with people. We have to open doors, but I think we will have time probably to develop that. I think I would say we are, of course, in a big moment of reshuffling, the next Commission strategies, the next European vision, in a moment where everybody is frightened. Frightened of the far right, frightened of the US, frightened of China. The solution is not to be fearful. The solution is to stand up. But stand up not because we are right, but stand up with the people and in a way open the doors and the views of other people to work with. I would say the main critique, I would say, to our movement, incapacity to put social issues first, and incapacity to, in a way, understand, compromise, see that there are other alliances that can be done. So be maybe a little bit less patronizing and a little bit less understanding others.
Thank you, Laurence, for timekeeping, and thank you for a clear message. Let me directly, for the sake of time, given the short time we have, directly go to you, Sandra. I will ask you the first very short question, and I expect a very short answer on how I think it's working. How are we doing as Greens? You're sitting there in Croatia, but you have been part of the European Greens movement. You know them. You have also observed, and Możemo applied to be part of the European Greens. How are we doing as Greens? What's your assessment?
Okay. Well, I first want to say that the Greens agenda of the green transition is the most ambitious political agenda that we have on European or even global landscape. It's also maybe the most elaborate political agenda. And having said so, it is very obvious that with such an ambition that has impact on all spheres of society and elaboration in terms of goals, we always have huge risks, and we are completely open to the attacks. So the recent attacks that we had in the last 2 years, not only from the far right, but also from EPP and groups, even social democrats in some ways, are expected and normal. And also it will happen in the future. But the point where we are now, which is of course not good, we are not feeling, like celebrating after the EU elections and also national elections in some countries. But still, especially in this Congress, we see that we still have infrastructure, people, and the vision. And the most needed thing that we have to change is that in our politics, in our policies, but also especially in our discourse, the well-being, when we wear economic justice, economic equality has to take priority and has to be a framework through which we communicate green policies. If we will not do this transition and change, I'm afraid that, we will not be able to have this rise again in a short term. Yeah.
To bounce back. Good. It was a bit longer, so I'll directly go into the longer intervention. But so I'll ask you the same about Możemo. How's Możemo doing? We're now putting the mirror before we go into the looking forward. You've talked about some of your views of what we should be doing. How's Możemo doing, and what kind of lessons you think, and it's important, a party like Możemo can bring to this broader family?
So first of all, we are now a third party in the parliament. We have doubled number of our representatives in Croatian parliament. For the first time, we have European parliamentarian as well. Gordon is somewhere here. but also for 4 years, we are now governing the capital of Croatia, Zagreb. And we are one of the 3 cities, actually, that are capitals that are governed by the Greens. I have to say that our agenda from the beginning, and this is why we are called Možemo, we are a Green Left Party, but we are not called Green Left Party. We are called Možemo. Why? Because we wanted to put the politics of protection of public interest and common goods in the center of our politics in order to be able to communicate to much broader public. What does that mean? And I will try to give certain examples. On the level of city of Zagreb, for example, we have just recently remunicipalized a water sewage treatment plant. And why is that important, especially in times of crisis? Because it will give us an opportunity in the future to control the price of water. Secondly, when the inflation has hit, and it has hit really bad, Croatia especially, we had one of the highest inflation rates in whole EU. What can you do on the level of one city? Maybe not much on the level of economic politics, but what you can do is to redistribute your incomes in a way that you subsidize all public services, so not even one public service has been priced up, and the prices have stayed the same. So this is what you can do. Thirdly, what we have chosen also as our approach is to heavily invest in those public services which directly influence quality of lives of our citizens. For example, first of all, kindergartens. It's an unprecedented investment in kindergartens in every neighborhood in Zagreb. Secondly, in schools. Thirdly, health. Fourth, for the elderly homes, etc. Investment, but also keeping the accessibility through the prices and control of prices for everyone. And the whole idea behind that is that if we remunicipalize things, if we control at least the services which have to be public and stay public, then we have, again, political control over processes in our communities. When we privatize services, we do not have control anymore. And one more example, which is very important, and I think it's a lesson learned from all over Europe. The green transition is especially being emphasized in energy field, yeah? So this is what is our problem, and I will say now, why is the Greens problem and how we have to reverse it. The energy transition was mostly communicated to the public. We need green investments in green energy. We want more investments in renewables. Whose investments? Whose property it is? Who will benefit? And why? At the end of the day, knowing that the sun is not subjected to inflation, or wind as well, why the prices of the electricity from renewables are the same as from, because we have that kind of formula. And it's not a part of the local systems owned by citizens, but it's owned by private investors. And if we don't change that paradigm, we will not be able to communicate green transition as a benefit for the working majority, but it will be a benefit for some, and we don't want that. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Sandra. Thanks a lot. I'm moving to an independent person compared to representatives of parties. You, Tariq. So therefore, I can ask even the craziest question. So because you will not be held accountable in this Congress, I will ask you about you are studying the dynamics of political parties in Europe, throughout Europe. You're also studying the phenomenon of backlash. But before that, my my little punch question is, I've asked others what kind of mirror they hold to the Greens, an honest look, and you're originally from Germany. So what if I were to hold a mirror to the Grünen today? Please, floor is yours. Easy question.
Yes, just as the one sentence answer to this is really, it's not easy being green, which is of course a quote by the famous philosopher Kermit the Frog. But I'll add to this, in the current situation, really, it is not easy being green. But greenlash or green backlash might not be the best frame to understand why it is so difficult right now.
Thank you. Thank you, Tariq. And therefore, I want to ask you, I mean, we have been talking a lot, and you mentioned it, Laurence, and a lot of us in parties, all of you delegates are working in green movement in one form or another. Green backlash, really? Is there such thing as a green backlash? People turning their back on green ambitions and a green agenda? This is one part of what you have been studying, and this, I think, is necessary to bring to this Congress, but also to the green European Greens in general. Is there such a thing as a green backlash, or are we, and you know, I go against my own chapel, but it's important to be out of our comfort zone, and it's Chatham House. But are we maybe not delivering on the political competition on the green agenda? Simply the others is not that the green agenda is not wanted. Tariq, your views?
Yes. So, of course, when we look at the election results this year, especially the election results for the European Parliament election, what we see is the Greens, many Green parties haven't been doing well. But it is a diverse picture, and something I would like to remind everyone is that governments basically everywhere have been losing right now. It's a really difficult time to be a party in government. And Greens have especially lost when there were parts of governing coalitions, right? The German Greens are a good example for this. It's difficult to be in government right now because we have this world of many crises, and governments are held accountable for this. It's especially difficult for smaller parties in government, junior coalition partners, because they lack the prime minister figure that in this time of crisis can, in some context, still give some sort of comfort. It's like a constance in perception. And so situations are particularly difficult for governing parties and junior coalition partners. A second thing that is difficult for Green parties right now is a situation of an economic downturn. And we know this, we've studied this. Parties that emphasize issues that are not necessarily the old school social policy, bread and butter economic issues, and don't necessarily have a strong reputation on these issues, do particularly well. No, they don't do particularly well. They really struggle in situations of economic downturns. And it seems that especially inflation is really triggering this at the moment. And so we have this double situation of a challenge for Green parties at the moment. Because if we just look at the question of a green backlash, so if we really look at attitudes on green policies, we don't see a backlash. We don't see that people now say goodbye to the green agenda. However, what we have to take into account, and this is really the final point to say, it's not all great for the Greens, or it's not just a coincidence right now, is that political competition around the issue of climate change has really changed. And it used to be very much an issue that we call a valence issue. So where competition goes for who's the most competent to deal with this, who has the best policy solutions. And this is transformed and is really the doing of the right to a much more identity-based backlash against these things. It's about, I still want to drive my fast car, I want to eat my meat. And it seems to me that the Greens are a bit, they don't really know what to do with the situation. They're still very much focused on a policy discourse. And they say, well, this is the right thing, this will make you richer in the long term. But the discourse has really changed away from this. And they haven't really caught up and found their position in this more identity-based competition.
Thank you, Tariq. Very clear. I hope you can, in other parts of the plenary, also come up with some of the examples in different countries. Thank you so much for keeping with the time. I move directly to you, Angelo. seen from Italy, you will talk about Italy. You will talk about the comeback and the great results you had at the European elections with the Alleanza of Verde Sinistra. But I want you first to that's much deserved. I want you first to tell us, how are the Greens seen in Italy? How's the Green movement seen in Italy? This is a peculiar country for the Green movement.
Thank you very much. First of all, I want to say thank you to EGP, European Green Party, to invite me, to invite for the first time the Italian leader party after a long time, very long time, and so thank you very much to EGP. And so, very, very short, because you told me that with the punchlines very short. How in Italy see the movement Green Party? Strongly recovering, and with the result it has never achieved in the past. And now we are a strategic force with which to build the alternative to the far right that govern in Italy. And we know, and you know, what is it, the far right in Italy, for the democracy, for the migrants, for the ecological question. It's a very bad situation, and we are build the alternative for to send in the opposition the far right in Italy.
Thank you, Angelo. So indeed, it's a sort of comeback, and very much welcome. But so, if we are to, again, as the first round, put that mirror in front of our eyes, how do the Italian Greens manage to bring the green agenda to the voters? This is quite a challenge in a country that has had many different governments that were not green, that has a peculiar economy within the Eurozone. So how did you manage that?
Okay, first, you know, it's important to repeat, the Italian Greens have had a deep and a long political crisis. Very, very long political crisis, and have returned to the Italian and the European Parliament after 15 years. Long. It has been a long crossing in the desert. Very, very long crossing. But we achieved an important success at the last election with almost 7% of consensus achieved as the Green Left Alliance. And with 4 elected Green Member of Parliament, Benedetta Scuderi, Cristina Guarda, Ignazio Marina. Benedetta is at the end of this room, and Ignazio Marina, Luluca Orlando. Ignazio Marina and Luluca Orlando was ex-former mayor of Palermo and Rome. Very, very important person. And we have never achieved in our history this kind of delegation. Our program has won over young people, and we made proposals that brought together social and environmental justice and said clear words. Which kind of clear words? First, I said to combine social agenda and climate agenda. But there are the other things. First, we are against to increase in spending on weapons, first. Second, what happened on Palestine? We have all condemned what happened in the 7th October 2023. It was an horrible terrorist attack, horrible. And we think that Hamas is the very enemy of the Palestinian people. But what Benjamin Netanyahu did in Gaza is a crime against the humanity, okay? And for this reason, the action of the International Criminal Court must be supported and Netanyahu punished. This is why the young people vote the alliance on green and left. And you know, the Giorgia Meloni, the prime minister, is very, very close to Madame von der Leyen. Want to reform the state in Italy, amend the constitution, concentrate in her power, in her hand, all the power of in Italy. Look what happened for the migrants. For the migrants in Italy, you know what happened in Albania. Build a center of detention of the migrants, person, not migrants, person, in Albania. And so we organize our program, and now our objective is to get over the 10% at the end, the next election, political election in Italy. In this context, at the European election, we built a program based on social, climate justice, for peace, calling to stop the increased spending on arms. Thank you.
Thank you, Angelo. Let me go, please. I'm sorry for the cutting your applause. We don't have much time, unfortunately, so I'm going straight into the second part of this plenary. And so we've held the mirror in front of our eyes, and thanks for the very critical and constructive views that you brought here. Now we need to, as I said at the beginning, stop to be too much on the defensive or just reaction towards the far right. I mean, it's been occupying, whatever events I go to. I don't know for you. It's like, they have a playbook. We have to do the same. We react a lot, and I'm not saying we shouldn't, but we also have to bring our own offer. And as Tariq mentioned, we have, in French, there's a saying. We have entered dans le dur de la transition. So really the material part of the transition, like, hey, now it's not about setting targets. Now it's about delivering. And for that, you do need a certain process and a certain attention to your voters. And so in this second part, I want you to talk about what you see as the avenues or the entry points in this very bleak picture. But I mean, there are cracks and we will need to exploit them. So Angelo, I will continue directly with you, and I want to ask you, Italy is a climate frontline sovereign member states. I mean, it's literally at the at the forefront of climate change, extreme weather. I mean, it costs a lot to the country. It has dire impact and consequences for people. How what are the entry points to bring a green agenda? How people should actually be, dying for climate change resilience, adaptation, and other measures that would improve their lives. And that's not necessarily the case in the results. What are your entry points at the Alianza and you at Europa Verde?
Okay, we need to combine. We need to combine the social agenda with the climate agenda, and we must avoid being seen as enemy, the worker, and not transform ourselves into the technical bureaucrat of the environment. Is a big problem. This is my point of view.
Thank you, Angelo. So that's an important point, and I want to stress that. So the point you're bringing here, and we'll talk about that later, is the question of the workers, the question of the unions, their changing nature, because this is not the unions also of the 1980s and 1990s in Italy. Are there other entry points beyond the workers and the unions that you want to stress in the context that you are dealing with in Italy?
Okay. As I said, we need to combine the social agenda and the environmental policies. Make it clear that climate policies help the economy and make it possible to charge less for energy for the family in Europe, also in Italy especially. In Italy, in the last 2 years, between floods and drought, we have had damage of over 20 billion euro. It's incredible, 20 billion euro in 2 last years. What criticism I feel like making first of all myself? we must combine the technicality and the correct achievement of climate objective with the social issues. And therefore, the battle to finance the ecological transition. I want to do an example. The Greenhouse Directive.
Housing, yep.
Okay? It's an excellent directive. It was very important. But, for example, was used in Italy for the far right to say that we wanted, the Green wanted to make Italian families, or I think also in Europe, to pay 50,000 euros to renovate their homes. Okay? We know it's false, but what we had and must to do is set up a fund to be allocated to the economically weakest family. There is many fake news from the far right, but the question is, when we propose issues, ecological issues, we have to find the fund and the resource, especially to the weakest families in Europe. This is the big problems. And the other question is where we get the money to finance the transition. And so I want to explain, I want to be an example. In Italy, there is 72 person that has a net worth 301 billion euro. It is possible to make a tax fair and to make a taxation the super rich. It's possible to do that to finance the healthcare and the transition, ecological transition for the Italian Green Party. Yes, it's possible.
Okay, thank you, Angelo. We shall talk about taxation, I'm sure, and it's a topic in France has been hot. But let me move now to Tarek for this second round. And as I introduce this second round, we should not, at least it is my view, that we should not be reactive only to the far right. But it's a question also. So in your research, I would like you to tell us very briefly what's your opinion on, should we put the far right front and center in campaigning? Should we, consider that this is the target which we are set up against, or should we rather deliver something genuinely our own? Tarek.
Yeah, so the first thing is, and really the punchline is, not to accommodate the radical right, never do it. It only strengthens them, it legitimizes them, and in the end, people will still vote for the original. But it's also not enough to just frame the radical right as the enemy of democracy. You have to do more than that.
Thank you. And that's a good reminder, not only from us saying it, and colleagues in the session from the Green CFA mentioned it, but it's also good to have it from research that it actually both doesn't work, and that some flavors of green populism have not necessarily worked, because that's not it doesn't match our real offer. But so what we are set up against a 2025 year that will be slightly chaotic. We don't have a government in France. We have German elections, and this is just the beginning of a new commission and the Trump second mandate. For the Greens, in your view and based on your research, what works and doesn't work when we do campaign?
Yeah, so I want to talk about a vicious cycle that we're in at the moment. That's really the context for this. And the vicious cycle goes something like this. The radical right becomes more successful. In response to this, many other parties move to the right on immigration because it's their goal to win voters back from the radical right. Center-right parties have done this, Social Democrats have done this, Greens have done this to a much lesser extent, but this is the first thing that happens. Now, mainstream parties are trying to do this, and they're not winning voters back. Again, our research shows this very clearly. Moving right on immigration doesn't weaken the far right. If anything, it strengthens the far right. So the far right gets even more successful What do the parties do? They think we have to be even tougher on immigration. Now, if you think of a voter in this situation, now everything they hear is immigration is a problem, we have to do more about immigration. People that are supposedly neutral, like the German president even, will talk about immigration as the fundamental problem that we have to solve. So what happens in voters' minds now is, of course, a reaction that says, well, immigration seems to be a problem. This is really a problem for us. I don't want to say that there are no challenges involved in immigration, but I think it's always good to remind ourselves that there is no other issue where the difference between personal worries and worries for the country is as big as for immigration. So when people are asked, is there a direct negative effect of immigration on for you? Nearly no one says yes. If people are asked, is immigration a problem for your country? Many, many people say yes. And this shows us how much this is also affected by the narratives that are driven by political parties. Now we see public opinion moving in this direction. And what do political parties do? And now this includes the Greens. They say, we have to react to public opinion. People are so worried about immigration, so maybe we too actually have to move to a more restrictive position on immigration. This is very visible in Germany right now, but this is the debate that I see in a lot of even in Green parties happening right now. And even if they don't move to the right, they have become very hesitant for many progressive agendas on other issues. Think of LGBT rights, gender equality, many other issues where Green parties have become afraid to look too progressive, that they think they're actually playing into, or that public opinion has moved away from them and now they can't do anything about this. And this is really a situation where the reaction strengthens the far right. And we are so now even Green parties are contributing to this vicious cycle. And as a last image on this, then going to demonstrations and at every party convention saying the far right is the enemy. They are the threat to democracy. But during the week, participating in legislation that actually is that kind of legislation that the far right wants, this is not going to convince anyone.
Thank you, Tarek. Very clear. That's a great segue to my question to you, Sandra. What Tarek mentions is full of what we hear, in surveys and polls, insecurities. I mean, people are in dire need of protection, and I mean, when I say people, I feel that too. I mean, this is a world, fraught with wars, very threatening geopolitical landscape, cost of life, as you mentioned. And you already mentioned several examples and very concrete, thank you, that, have been driving the action of Mogemo. But so, in 1 minute, what do you think is so special in the approach of Mogemo towards that sentiment that some people may feel individually as contrary to the country or national issue, as Tarek was mentioning? What's Mogemo's answer that you think is special and that you want to shout out to the rest of the Greens?
Yeah, thanks. Pointing out to direct and existing dangers, especially coming from climate change, and taking over security narrative and applying it to climate risks. And then this is what we do. This is the security issue, and then we actually use the security language on it.
You use the security language. This I want you to develop for us on what are the sort of topics and approaches that Mogemo nurtures in order to do that and respond to real existing fears or at least insecurities of people.
I have a very fresh example from Croatia.
Good.
So Croatia, as in many other countries, has a huge public debate whether or not should we introduce obligatory, mandatory service in the army for everybody.
Conscription.
Conscription, yeah. Which was abolished 24 years ago. Yeah, Gordon. Gordon was a leader of the movement. Gordon Bosanac, today our MEP. And we have managed then to abolish the conscription. Now it's debating to get it back again. And of course, the public opinion, because of the geopolitical situation, is actually in favor. And what we are trying to do, and what we are putting as a question is, what do we need more now? I mean, we have floods, we have fires, we have immediate dangers from the climate change, which people really feel because the communities are endangered. So we are suggesting, okay, we already have a voluntary service in military. Okay, invest in that because we already have that. But if we want to have something where people learn skills on security issues, why don't we have a civil service for everybody or everybody who wants in civil protection units? And this is like, you know, we are contraposting that to the conscription. Secondly,
May I stop you on that? This is Chatham House, so please just close the door and make sure it doesn't go out. But would you say that the position of Mojimo is just for the sake of the argument, we are in favor of making climate change a national security issue? So if
that
there are
is a
people being
national
trained, this
security-
is an issue.
That is par excellence national and European security issue.
I'm moderating, I can't say if I agree or not, but you are saying yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And what we need to do is talk about security threats in the context of human security concept. It's not, you know, hardballs, security guys from the, you know, past talking about. It's about human security, and it's about security of our communities, and this is the security and the risk in protection from which we can all participate, and we can mobilize about these subjects. They're not secret, they're not elite, they're not, it's an issue of all of us, and we can mobilize communities on that. And I mean, we even have a history on that in Croatia, because like, you know, 40, 50 years ago, people, especially young people, were mobilized to volunteer on projects which had a goal in that direction, civil protection or roads or whatever. And I think we need to bring back the spirit of mobilization around issues which we feel fear from. And this is how we fight fear. And if we all participate in fighting fear, then it becomes not only it's realistic, but our response becomes realistic. It's not anymore up to some far-right politicians to have a strong hand. It's up to us. And I think we have to, you know, try to have this sentiment again.
And a sense of participation, if I get you.
And again, I'm saying that a very important thing that we emphasize in our politics is that we need to bring back the power to the politics in a way that politics has to have tools to protect public sphere, public goods, common goods against the interest of those who actually see it only as a subject of their extraction of wealth or making profit. And it's important narrative that we have to say. I wanted to say today, because I think it's really important when we talk about security and when we talk about economy, when we talk about what are the threats, we have to move from putting pressure on people and people's choice as being responsible for the climate and the climate catastrophe. And we have to move that fight towards the fight with those who have power. If we are saying, you know, you should use less plastics, but people do not have choice, because when you enter into your store, everything is in plastic. We cannot put that on them. We have to put on those who are actually have the power around that. The same is with the fuel, the same is with the cars, the same is with the traffic. Traffic, we are saying people not to use cars or not to use planes when they fly somewhere, yeah? I mean, just to give you an example, to get to my family in Germany by train, I would need 10 times more time, and I would pay 3 times more than flying. We have to change that. We have to say, We will invest in infrastructure that will allow you your moral choice. Thanks.
Great, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Sandra. And because I'm kindly pressed by time by the organizers, I'm moving directly to you, Laurence. And I want to shift a little bit. Now we've talked about security. Next time we will invite the former SG of NATO, Rasmussen, to our discussion. I'm proposing this to the GP for the next Congress. But here I want to move to a very short question, and I would like you to give me a short answer. Draghi. The Draghi reports and the emphasis of the new Commission, and not only the Commission, on competitiveness and investment. Is it an opportunity for the Greens?
So yes, I do think so. Just wanted to say that on the benefit for people, I think Sandra has said all, together of course with our Italian colleague. The second element, I think it was very important in Tariq speech, is we have been very good on policies, we have not been very good on politics. So I think that's what I took. Now, coming back to Draghi report and how in a way to open a new vision for, and I may develop that not to do in 2 times because of the short term we have. I think we have an extraordinary opportunity to build much more alliances and constituencies around the reshaping of the European economy. And that's true that for the Green movement, it was not the specialty to do that. And so we have to improve our analysis, our thinking about how we could take green industrialization with all the trade-off, energy setting, where we put the wind turbines, the grid, electric grids, investment, mining. We have to deal with these very difficult issues for our normal constituencies and talk to others, because we need to create the new jobs, we need to build the new finance, in particular now for in your European context, and we need to find, understand and make the message that I think can be listened by, that if really the old economy want to stick to its privilege and its rent, as you described, we will be losing everything. And look at China. They have invested in the green industrialization since the last 10 years. So they have 10 years more, 15 years in advance of where we are, just because the old sector of what was the industrial economy of Europe didn't want to change. So as a green movement, in general, we should say, this is a moment to change. We cannot lose time. And this is a way where we have to articulate things we were not very good at. So I do think that there is an opportunity there. And we have to talk to people we don't talk to normally. The businesses, the new entrepreneur, other constituencies, the digital economy. We have to be much more outside our comfort zone to talk about what this economy could look like. And then put the justice element, the fight against inequality, the fights against monopolies like the digital economy is producing. We have to fight for all this. Again, not our comfort zone in general, but very, very important in my view if you want to win the vision of the future. What Tariq was saying, he was saying we are just resisting, reactive, where we should say, look, this is the future. We can be much better off if we see, again, the new ways of industry, of trade, of partnership with other partners. If we do that in the right way and where people are consulted, that we reform of the governance of companies, reform of the governance of the way people are consulted, and then we can build this new wave of industrialization in a very democratic way, which we have not done in the past. So that's a big revolution of the way we will talk about economy and finance, in my view.
Thank you, Laurence. And I will ask the audience and the ones entering to be silent, please, so that we can continue with the plenary. Thank you so much for the respect of the speakers. I mean, obviously, it begs a question, and I think our co-president Bas Eickhout asked the question to Sarah Mathieu earlier. You know, and it allows me to take a Jerry Maguire quote. But show me the money. Like, where will we find the money?
So there are many sources. We have sort of tax reform, international tax reform as well. But I think we have elements we are not using for that. We have a powerful European Investment Bank. We have a powerful Eurozone. We can be imaginative of the finance element that can give, but of course then we have to change the way we talk to the private sector. How much we think that some public money has to guarantee for the private sector to invest. Again, not the things we are normally doing. How we have economic projects that interest the citizen directly, like the energy communities, for example. So there are many elements where we can find the new finance system. And again, we should talk to new resources for European community. We have to think European and not think only national interest in this new industrialization phase. I think there are many difficult issues about security and army and the military. It's good you open that in the next Congress because I think it's a very delicate one.
We at the Green European Foundation have opened that security question quite early. I think it's a key one. And I finish. It's a short question, but I really do want, given your experience and also knowing very well those people, I want to have your view on. We'll leave the Green Party politics now and go to very quickly to the Commission. What are your expectations and your views of the portfolio? I'm not talking about the person of Teresa Ribera. Having both competition and the green agenda in her two hands.
You know.
And again, I will ask the one entering to do so silently, respecting the speakers. Thank you very much.
So knowing well her very well, by the way, and it's not a mystery. I think she has done an extraordinary job in Spain to put just transition as a way to work on the transformation of the economy, mostly on energy, but she did that. For example, not closing the coal mines first and then think about what will happen, but organize the transition for the workers before saying any moment that they can close the mines. So I do think that she has a portfolio with a unique market, which exists, the state aid together with other commissioners, but with her mindset that the transition has to be just, meaning reduce strongly the inequalities that is really between countries and within countries in Europe, but with other partners. I think that's the portfolio she can bring. But she will need a lot of help, really. And you know, it's good to negotiate, it's good to have compromise, it's good to vote against the Commission. I know some of you have voted against that for good reason, because of course of the compromise of von der Leyen with the Italian, with Fito and the far right. But if we don't want, as a progressive movement in general, without qualification of you know, political etiquettes and labels, if we want to win from the conservative to the left and the Greens, this battle of a more just economy, we have to really be much more serious and not fight for our own specific objectives. I am sometimes struck, including in my organization where, of course, we have a lot of people, of course, working within the green movement, that sometimes we are fixed on our specific objective and not on the vision of the economy and the compromise we have to do. If we missed this opportunity, and there is a lot of objection, if we miss that opportunity, I think we will really miss the only 5 years we have to win again the battle we won with the Green Deal. And I would like really to send very strongly this message. If we don't have a compromise, a compact, a social contract with these progressive people in the Commission, it will be very easy to lose everything we have been working for on the last 5 years. So there is a sense of responsibility, which I feel really deeply. I see that in France. We are missing this totally because of our incapacity to see bigger and further and having a long-term view. So at least that's the message I would like to convey here.
Thank you, Laurence. Point of order, I will kindly ask the ones entering, we have been pushed to start later, but our four speakers have been preparing and are here to offer their time to you. So I will ask you to remain silent for the next 5 to 7 minutes. I'll try to wrap it up. And again, sorry to the four of you. I'll try to wrap it up, and we'll move to the last section of this plenary. The title of the plenary was and still is, although we'll try to wrap it up even faster, the foundations of for a green future. So what I will ask the four of you to now comment on, and again, as short as you can, is, you know, if we have to lay the foundations, what's next? What's next for at least the next 5 years? What kind of alliances? What are the key proposals that you would put forward in your different, obviously, situations and roles? What are the questions on positioning? And I obviously direct that to Tariq and your, given the research that you have brought to the fore. So I move directly, and again, sorry for compressing the time. Again, for those entering, please remain silent. So on the cost of life, this has been a key topic, right? I mean, we even know that, and I think someone said it earlier, that it's not, Kamala Harris didn't win also on the economy just because the cost of life and the sentiment of insecurity is not the same thing as it's the economy stupid. So on how can we broaden sort of our green-only agenda and cater to those insecurities and to those feelings and need of protection? Tariq, the floor is yours.
Yes, I want to give two ideas, and I'll keep it really brief. The first is that you really can, in terms of voting perspectives, you cannot be afraid of being hated. There is a share of the electorate that will never vote Green, and it's completely irrelevant for you if someone is indifferent toward the Greens or if they hate the Greens. Electorally, it doesn't matter. What matters is if someone is mildly appreciative of the Greens, or if they, in the end, really decide to vote for the Greens. So if you think of what policies to devise to actually attract voters, then that second element, that is the core constituency that you have to think of, and you have to spend less time thinking of those that might be in the other corner hating you. I want to add a second point, and that is really on identity politics, and this is something that comes up a lot. There is this idea the left has focused too much on identity politics, Greens have focused too much on identity politics. The opposite is true. What the left has given up on is shaping identities. This is something that the right has been doing very successfully in the last years. They've shaped the idea of who a worker is, what normal is. All of these things are a product of identity politics. So what the Greens have to ask themselves is, what is a modern identity that is associated with being green? And this is more than just a policy, but this is really shaping questions of how people think of themselves and linking this to a green agenda. And these are two things that I think the Greens have to do.
Thanks a lot for the clear message and the concise message. Angelo, in this last round, you have already mentioned the agenda and the need for the social and the climate agenda going together. You talked about workers. What are other alliances? What the key thing of, you know, it's the very name of your movement. What are other alliances that the Greens need to look at in the next 5 years?
Thank you. Every country is different from in Europe. The social and the cultural structure of Italy is very different for Germany. Also, the social and cultural structure is very different from Spain and to Germany. From my point of view, we are wrong if we think with the classic categories of political sociology. The first question is, what is the political area, for example, of the center or moderate? I met in my life many people who would be called centrist or moderate, who call for radical change. Sorry.
No worries.
In economic and social policies, in the direction of social equity, much more than many people on the left. The work we are doing in Italy is in dialogue with the left, of course, but it's not to look at the past with ideological dogmas, but to give a government response on fiscal, economic, social, and environmental policies with the objective of combating social poverty and job creation in the ecological transition policies. Overcome the right-left divide is not possible, but it would have that. There is a big division from the ecologists and the right far. You know why. I don't explain that. The right today is a very enemy of climate change, or the policy of climate change, sorry, vote against the nature restoration law, against on the law of the reforestation, stop the regulation on pesticide, and against the Green Deal, okay? And so this is the reason what I'm not understand the support of Madame von der Leyen, the Commissioner von der Leyen, because the political barycentric is on the right, it's going on the right, and it's very, very difficult. I think it's important to return, to come back on the society, and because I think I want to be clear. We should be clear ourselves. After the European election, there is a crisis. For me, there is a crisis in the European Green Party. For me, it's clear. And for me, the basis for building a green future in Italy is to build an alliance with the popular classes, with the trade unions, with the economy companies that work in the ecological transition, because with young people, because we lost the relation with the young people in Europe, and we must recover the output. But
your last point.
In conclusion, I have some question for me and for all the people that are here. I return to talk about Gaza. Some people inside in this Congress are against to use the word genocide. Okay, we don't use the word genocide. But someone, can you help me to describe and which kind of word use to describe what happened in Gaza? Why? How it is possible? For example, why someone for example, did Greta Thunberg become a problem for some of us? Why is it legitimated for some of us, for Israel, to bomb civilians in Gaza, hospital, school, because behind there is terrorists? For me, it's not normal, because it's a very, very big problem for me to hear this kind of word. In conclusion, I think we have to...
Angelo, I will ask you to finish.
Okay, I conclude. I think we must build alliances with the force and the people that are close with us.
Thank you, Angelo. And the different points on alliances and also on questions of geopolitics have been heard, and I think this is a question you can continue to discuss. Also, the disagreement on the von der Leyen Commission, I'm sure Laurence will be happy to take up that question. But I move because now the room is full. I mean, people love elections. Who loves the plenary? But so now we move to the last two speakers, and we will go to your election. No worries. But they have been prepared, and so I want to pay respect to Sandra and Laurence, please. Last round, Sandra, how would you broaden our audience? You know, we were talking about broadening the audience the next 5 years. What kind of alliances? What's the key message you want to pass?
Okay, thank you. Well, we were putting a lot on policies and delivering. And deliverism has boundaries and the success of deliverism. And I think in next 5 years, it's very important that we put the emphasis on organizing, community organizing with different communities. And I would agree here with that. with what you said about how we actually were not dealing with creating identities and what it means, for example, to be a farmer or a farmer that wants to produce quality food. And I will give, at the end, one example, how we can reach out to those who are actually, who are not seen as our closest allies, farmers. What we did in Zagreb, I was talking in a previous panel, we have started to give the access to farmers, to producers who produce ecological food and locally sourced food to the whole market of the publicly owned institutions in Zagreb. And pilot has started with kindergartens. So the cities, the countries are sourcing actually a lot of food. They are buying a lot of food or beverages. If they would take 15%, 20% to open that huge market of hospitals, schools, whatever, universities, to local farmers and build alliances with them and create plans with them and open the market for saying next 5, 10 years we need as much, and you can plan your production and you can also apply for funding for that production. We would actually bring billions of euros to those who produce food in a way that we want it to be produced, locally sourced, locally owned, small farmers, and take that money from huge retailers which have been raising prices of food, justifying with inflation, although we know that inflation and actually energy prices were only a smaller part of that. We have to make these kind of changes and bypasses in order to organize these communities that actually, I think, will be our natural alliance and natural partners. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra. And thank you for keeping it short despite the very ambitious question. Yes, we're close to done. We started late, so we're close to done. The hardest part, the conclusion for you, Laurence. You have a tremendous experience in, building alliances. I shall remind everyone here that we have the architect of the Paris Agreement in the room and the CEO of the European Climate Foundation. So I do not think I have a better placed person to talk about what should be our alliances in the next 5 years. Laurence.
I think we have identified a lot of them already. We have to start with the people, with citizens. In ECF, support 1,000 organizations a year. That's the firefighters, the grandmothers, the the banlieue climats at the suburbs that are really wanting to work on environment. These are the new identity we should push for. I will not repeat what Sandra said because I totally agree. We should value the people who are really fighting. There is in France 500 zones where people are fighting for local problems. These 500 nodes, these are the ones we have to work with. We should be on the ground with them. We should be supporting them. We should be valuing the ones who are really standing up because they want a different future. And because they want, because of their local issues, to speak about national politics and even global politics. These are our natural allies. And then anyway, because we need to live in a society which is complex, we need to talk to trade unions, of course, to business, of course, the ones who really want to go in the same direction. But we have to start by the participation of citizens where they are, and because they are fighting for things that are important, and we should be on their side, behind them, not in front of them.
Yes, it deserves an applause. Thank you. Okay, I will certainly not, get myself beaten by the EGP colleagues, so I will not wrap it up and go into a long conclusion. I know you're excited for what comes. I really want to thank you. I want everyone to thank our 4 speakers. I want to thank the EGP for organizing that plenary. Thanks, Laurence. Thanks, Tariq. Thanks, Sandra. Thanks, Angelo. I take with me a series of clear messages coming from your different backgrounds and from your different situations. I certainly take the sense of participation and inclusion of the shaping of identities rather than, you know, looking at sort of what others do with identities of voters as a message. The questions not only of cost of life, but more broadly of the feeling of insecurities that need to be tackled is clearly something that we have been speaking to as Greens, and again, I put everyone in the same basket here, but in policy terms, the question is also in political terms, what can we do? I think this is the last plenary of the Congress. This is the first Congress after the elections. I throw a few messages to the new future EGP committee. Our speakers have been very clear. We need to talk about military. We need to talk about businesses. We need to talk about participation. And as and I finish with that, as Laurence started with, no, we have achieved something not alone with the European Green Deal, and this is a basis rather than a backlash to work from. I thank you very much and have a good election.